I did not expect this episode of Maria the Virgin Witch to actually take the time to develop some side characters. That's quite shocking. Like, I did not expect to see this series, like, develop a mercenary. Galfa, I think that's his name. So, this episode of Maria the Virgin Witch, shockingly different from the other episodes we have seen from the rest of the series. Like, this episode takes a different perspective, the perspective of Galfa, and actually seeing the issues he causes. Like, for instance, if he gets drunk, the issues he causes when he becomes a drunkard, and, you know, he causes problems, sleeps with women and stuff like that. And the main point of this episode is to see how this mercenary is getting by day-to-day life while he's slightly being affected by Maria, and he's still trying to seek out his dream. And then you have a slight little build-up along with the church and all that, trying to build up to war between England, where England will be weakened by Maria, where they could come in and take out England and Maria at the exact same time. So, there's a couple things building up in this episode, but I really did not expect to see this mercenary, this side character, actually get that type of development. So, let's dive into it. So, this episode, for the most part, we get to see the perspective of a common folk. We get to see the mercenary and how he deals with his day-to-day life, and, like, we get to see the main male character get to have a little bit of interaction with him, and to see exactly their viewpoints on what is currently going on and stuff like that. And along with this going on, you can see how the church, the higher-ups in the church and all that, are looking at this dude Galfa, and they're like, oh, we can use him. So this is definitely building up to something that's probably going to work against Maria in the future. But this episode, for the most part, I have to say, I enjoyed it, and it was shockingly refreshing from the other episodes, which is good, because I like the other episodes of Maria, but this episode, it was different from the other episodes, which really stood out, in my opinion, when it came to this series. So, the episode, once again, shows Cernos. Now, Cernos, he was kind of introduced in the last episode, and I said that Cernos being introduced is quite interesting or intriguing, because we really don't know much about this dude. I mean, we know he's like a god of the land or something like that, but we don't know much about him. We don't know if he's on God's side, if he's on, you know, devil's side. We don't know exactly what side he's on, the good side or evil side. And the way he talks to Maria, it's rather interesting, because the way he talks to her in this episode, he's like, Maria, why do you continue to stop wars? Like, I mean, once you finally have world peace, and let's say wars do stop, you will no longer be needed. You'll be like nothing to the common folk. For instance, you will be faded from their memories. Like, you will fade from the memories and nobody will remember you, because the only reason why Maria is remembered at the moment is because she stands in the way of two armies and making a name for herself, you know, stopping everybody and pissing everybody off. And so to see this, you can kind of understand that once the wars stop and there's no need for wars, Maria's entire usefulness would kind of be casted aside, or, you know, her being noticed by a lot of people would be casted aside, so she would no longer be useful. So you gotta love the overall perspective of Cernos in this episode. So I wonder what side Cernos really is on. That's the big question I have. But I like the way the direction the series is taking. I like the build-up of it. And Chibi mentioned this in the comments last week, and I want to actually talk about it. Someone stated, like, how Maria's, you know, putting her ideals on everybody. Like, Maria's forcing her ideals onto everybody to where she can have world peace. And then Chibi stated, like, wait, isn't it the exact same reason what the church and everybody else is doing to Maria? And, you know, the Archangel and all that? For instance, they're forcing their ideals upon Maria. So, you actually have both sides of the spectrum. For instance, Maria is forcing her viewpoints of the world on everybody else, and everybody else is forcing the viewpoints on Maria. So to see that, that's pretty cool when you start thinking about those little different details of this series. So, with the episode, it's a pretty simple episode. It really is. It sets up for Maria most likely going to be turned into like a witch hunt. Like, she's going to be hunted down like a regular witch. And if Maria ever does lose her magic, she's going to probably die. She probably will, because, I mean, if she does lose her virginity and, you know, loses her magic to her love, she most likely will be killed by the church, because, I mean, at the moment, the church really can't do much to her, unless, you know, the archangels and angels in heaven want to do something to her. And so, if Maria does lose her magic, she's going to get burned at the stake. In time, she will. And eventually, the church will cast their eyes on Maria, because at the moment, they're just using Maria to make their schemes and, like, their grand goal a lot easier. That's pretty much what the church is doing. And when Maria loses his usefulness, she's going to be hunted down like a standard witch. So, I wonder at the end of the series if Maria will die or not. That's the big question I have right now, because if Maria does die, that'd be a pretty fucked up ending. But I don't know. I don't know if Maria's ideals can be accomplished, though. I mean, stopping wars, I mean, that's in human nature. Human nature has always had conflict and want to fight, so Maria's trying to dabble into something that's very controversial and something that you really can't get rid of when it comes to humanity, so I wonder exactly what type of conflicts or development, you know, Maria's gonna have to go through to understand this. So we'll have to see. So, how do you all feel about this episode of Maria the Virgin Witch? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What was your favorite moments about it? I mean, how do you feel about getting to see this little development here and there in this episode? How do you feel about the other witches guilds wanting to recruit Maria and add her into their fold? How do you feel about that? I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or not wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.